Good. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm always like a little nostalgic at ETHGlobal New York because this was the first hackathon that I spoke at like 4 years ago. So really, really awesome to see some familiar faces and new faces. So thank you everyone for being here. A little bit about myself. Are my slides going to pop up here as well? My name is Kevin Jones. I've been working in the Ethereum ecosystem for the past 6 years, give or take, supporting the ETHGlobal, working with Austin Griffith and the Ethereum Foundation. We're just sorting out the slides here, but they'll be on in a second. But basically, the ETHGlobal has been around for a while. It was a product that came out of Austin Griffith to help developer education and support for the Ethereum ecosystem. And it's still very, very much an important thing of what we do, I think, as a community in Ethereum is like bringing on new people. And now we're in a new wave where we have AI. And AI is giving us a lot of power. And there's a lot of ways you can use AI to really accelerate, right? And not only like the growth in the industry, but also just as an individual. Like you can learn faster, you can build faster, prototype. So I'm going to be talking today a little bit about some of the products that have come out of the Build Guild. We're actually going to do a real demo and make sure that you guys leave with some good information here. Let's just make sure this works. It's good? Awesome. Cool. If I switch this to a better resolution, will it still show? All right. Sweet. We're good. Okay. So the Build Guild has been around for a while. We kind of have been focused on, again, education and tooling and really support of the ecosystem. And a lot of stuff has come out of the Build Guild. One of those being Speedrun Ethereum. And I think Speedrun Ethereum is still a very critical part of Ethereum because it kind of lays the fundamentals of education around like why Ethereum is important and some of the like core concepts that you need to understand in order to build good products that are driven by the EVM and driven by solidity, right? And so, you know, some of these like things that we kind of take for granted, like a DEX, right? Using Uniswap or something like that. It's still good to understand exactly how those work, right? And there's a lot of people that are coming into the space now and need that support. So we'll go through that in a little bit. But also we still have Scaffold ETH. Scaffold ETH was my journey into Ethereum, so it's very fond to my heart. I still use it very often to like prototype. And it's still very, very useful for like a hackathon project when you're just getting started and you don't know exactly what tools and how to plug things in together. Scaffold ETH is that starter kit, right? It comes with kind of everything you need. We'll do a demo of it later, and we'll dive into why it's important and kind of how you can build on it if you choose. We were doing this Ethereum on tour. I think we're still trying to do that. If you have a university that's interested in learning about Ethereum that you're nearby, just let us know. We're interested in that. And then we have a lot of like products that have come out of the Build Guild, like ABI Ninja, Address Vision, and these are like hacked wallet recovery for like recovering hacked funds. And you know, there's been a lot of really cool innovation that has come through there. But let's talk about Speedrun Ethereum. So Speedrun Ethereum was kind of like, again, my first educational experience coming into Ethereum, and it's grown a lot since then. We have these different, they're kind of like modules or things that you can do to go through and learn different things about, you know, tokenization. In this case, we learn a little bit about NFTs, right? What is an NFT? What does it really mean? And what's the value of creating an NFT? This one is actually super easy. Like, you don't even have to write any code. You can just literally spin it up and kind of deploy a NFT really simply. Then we have like the concept of like crowdfunding. Like, how do you get a bunch of people together to like put funds together, right, into a smart contract and have the same kind of goals and like make it, you know, useful for the people to do that. And so you learn a little bit about staking and being able to like put value into a contract from lots of different users and kind of aggregate that value. Then you learn a little bit about ERC20 tokens with the Token Vendor Challenge, where we actually dive in and teach you like what is an ERC20 token really, and how do you do the transfers, and how do you maintain balance, and you learn a little bit about the approved pattern for ERC20 contracts. And then you go into like concepts like the dice game, which kind of like, it's more of a way for you to understand how the blockchain works and how that it's a very public deterministic blockchain and randomness can be very tricky. And so in this example, you actually have to like hack a smart contract that has a dice game, and you have to kind of like cheat the system by trying to determine what the outcome is going to be before the actual dice is rolled. And so it's a really good one to kind of understand that probably with randomness, you need some kind of off-chain component like an Oracle or something like Chainlink. And so, again, it's teaching you like maybe even some of the limitations of where we're at with Ethereum and what you can and cannot do. And then you get into like the very like, this is kind of like the aha moment, like when you finally start building a DEX and you learn about liquidity pools and you learn about how you have to balance funds inside of a smart contract and make sure that it's balanced. This is like a very, very, and I think if you finally get to this point and really understand everything up to here, you're kind of in a really good position to where you can start building production-like applications on Ethereum. And it really kind of tests you on how you're understanding these concepts with that one. And then we dive into one that talks about oracles, right? Like, how do you bring real world data on chain, right? How do you like determine the price of something from multiple endpoints? And you learn like why an oracle is important. Then you start learning about over-collateralized lending. So, you know, this is the concept of like what Aave, right, is built on, right? Like, how do you hold a smart contract that allows you to allow participants to deposit collateral and then borrow collateral in a trustless way? And you learn a little bit about how you can kind of create incentives for people that are participating in the smart contract to be able to keep the smart contract whole and keep the balance in place between what is being lended versus what is actually in the contract. And you learn a lot about kind of how Aave is built. It's a really, really fun one, actually. And then you go into stable coins, which is actually like there's different kinds of stable coins, but we kind of teach you a little about over-collateralized stable coins. So this is kind of like a primer where you learn about how smart contracts hold large amounts of value, and you probably are going to want to allow people to deposit something and withdraw something else, but you also want to, maybe that withdrawal that you deposit is a stable coin, right? And how do you actually maintain the price of a stable coin? And this kind of goes into like some of those concepts. So really, really cool stuff. We also have this prediction markets challenge, which teaches you, it's kind of like this idea where you are creating basically a market for different outcomes, right? So you understand that like, okay, well, if you want to sell a prediction market or like have a prediction market on an outcome that is either yes or no, then you sell yes tokens and you sell no tokens. And those token prices kind of manipulate depending on the potential outcome and who's voting on yes versus no. And then eventually, whatever the outcome is, all the no tokens might be worth nothing and all the yes tokens are actually worth something. So you kind of learn about how prediction markets work. Very, very cool. And then you go into like ZK, which is, I think, a really important concept that people are sometimes afraid to kind of learn about ZK because it's like this moon math kind of like high-level stuff that is confusing, but this breaks it down and really teaches you about what a zero knowledge is, how you can use a zero knowledge contract to do voting on chain, right, and that kind of thing. And then we have this whole like tech tree thing that is being built, which is like even after you go beyond all of this and you want to explore different avenues of Ethereum, you can do that. We also run these capture the flag things where we are teaching people about vulnerabilities in contracts. This is really exciting if you're in like the security aspect of things. We usually do these at like large Ethereum conferences like DevCon or DevConnect. So we'll probably have one in Mumbai if anyone's going to be in Mumbai. By the way, who's going to Mumbai? Anybody? All right, brave souls in the room. It's a trek, but you guys should do it. Okay, so check out Speedrun Ethereum. It's really a really good place to just start and learning. And I think a lot of these quests have been actually kind of changed to where you can come in here, like connect your wallet. Let's see here. If we connect our wallet to the platform, we can register as a builder, which this is a brand new wallet, so I've never registered, but now I registered, and you get this like little profile right here. And yeah, it just goes into the details of like everything you need to know. A lot of them have videos, right, that will teach you. You can watch the video. It kind of tells you how long it's going to take. It's got some helpful links, and you can see how many people have completed it. So this is still a very, very important thing to do. I thought there was like some AI stuff that they added, but I think maybe, AI guided learning mode, which is kind of cool. This is basically where you can download this, and if you run this command, it will kind of like teach you over the command line on how to finish the challenge, which I think everyone's using AI, right? And I think AI is really good for learning as well, right? Like I think we're learning it. It's one of those things where the brain's quite interesting. By vibe coding, you really start to learn things that you would never have learned before, even if it's doing a lot of the work for you. And so this is a good way to do that. So check out Speedrun Ethereum. Another thing that I think I wanted just to talk about is like X402. If anyone hasn't been following around with X402, this is a great thing to hack on because it's really like at the edge of what Ethereum is and what actual users need, and this is like commerce, right? And it's also a very good link into like traditional infrastructure. Okay, so for everyone, whoever doesn't know what X402 is, it's an extension of the HTTP status code 402. So that status code that everyone's seen the 404 error, right? 404 not found, and then there's a little Nginx logo. That has been around for a while, but 402 has also been around for a while, and you probably have not seen it just by browsing around the internet because it wasn't very widely adopted. But Coinbase decided that they would take the 402 and reinvent how it can be used in this new X402 protocol, And all it means is that you can respond back with an API with some extra data that says, if you want to access this API, you need to make a payment here, right, on this chain with this asset in this amount and with all the rules, essentially. So it's kind of a way to like token gate access to any API, right? So the idea is that we don't need API keys anymore. We can just use Ethereum. Well, we can use, it's more than just Ethereum, but obviously we're at an Ethereum conference, so you're going to be using an Ethereum address, and you're going to be able to make a payment over X402 to get access to that resource, right? So if you have an idea for something that is like a traditional kind of Web 2 application and you want to bring it on chain, X402 is going to give you that capability, right? So there's a lot of different ways to work with X402. So I also work at Edge and Node. So I don't know if anyone's been following Edge and Node, but we're the original creators of the Graph protocol. And we have a wallet that allows you to do X402 payments and X402, it allows you to accept payments and also make payments over X402 with guardrails. So this would also be something interesting that you could build on that makes it a little easier. We have an SDK, but there's a lot of SDKs out there for working over X402. You can find a lot, but that might be a good one for you to check out. The next thing I want to talk about is ETH skills. So if you guys don't have this in your bookmark, this should definitely be somewhere. You should install it. If you have an editor, you can install it into Claude Code or Cursor or Codex, and you can see this like persisted setup right here, which tells you exactly how to do this, right, on each different editor that you have. And this is, this is a really cool skill because it's got all of the best practices, really, of like how to work on Ethereum, and it's going to save you a lot of time if you're bootstrapping a project and you want to like minimize mistakes or you want to follow like best practices. This is a really good starting point. And it's open source, so there's a pull request here. So if you notice something that is off, please let us know. The nice thing is it's maintained by, I think, a decent amount of people. There's been 134 commits to it. Austin Griffith's OpenClaw bot has been chunking away at this. You can see he's right here. So it's constantly being evolved, but it also is pretty stable. You can see there's not been a lot of commits on it, actually, recently. But we do try to constantly improve it, and so that's a really cool thing. And it also covers topics like X402. Right, and ERC 8004. Actually, that might be a good thing to talk about as well. ERC 8004. Oh, I can't spell. So ERC 8004 is also another thing that is probably you should be thinking about when you're at the hackathon. ERC 8004 is a kind of like you can think of it as a registry for AI agents. Well, show of hands, who here is going to build an AI agent on this hackathon? Maybe a few of you. Wow, I kind of expected more. Okay, so maybe a traditional mix of like DeFi protocols and AI. But if you're going to use AI and you're going to build an agent, then you're going to want to register with the ERC 8004, mostly because you're going to get visibility. It's a registry, and it has basically the motivation is that you, are, as a human, are going to be creating AI agents and building on-chain enabled AI agents, and you're going to want them to have a long-lived reputation, right? You're going to want people to be able to know that this agent is doesn't have any, it's not a drainer contract or something malicious, and you start to build this reputation, and over time that's like super valuable because AI agents are just software, and so you can register essentially your AI agent with ERC 8004, and it will be available over a kind of like through that registry. One really cool program is Agent Zero. I'm trying to figure out what I think it's this one. I think it's agentzero.dev. Let's see. Is this it? No, this is not it. Agent Zero. Dev ERC 8004. I always forget their domain. I remember it's like a really weird domain. 8004. No, I can't find it. Anyways, so Agent Zero has like an SDK that makes it easy to register with ERC 8004, so you could check that out. I'll try to find that and like post that later. I'm not sure why I can't find it here. And there's also a subgraph, which, again, I also work at Edge and Node, so I work on the graph protocol a lot. And so what's cool about this is you can plug in your front end to this subgraph, and you can find all of the agents that are currently in the registry like super quickly, right? You can just come here, basically add the subgraph, and it's a GraphQL API. So it's going to allow you to like grab all of those chunks of agents and then filter out based on whatever you're looking for, right? So there's like metadata tags, there's types of agents, and there's ways you can like filter that out. And I think there's actually a link to the subgraph here. Yeah. This is the actual subgraph, which is already deployed. And I think if you were to go to like thegraph.com, let's see, this one is called Agent 0. So we could go to the apps and go to the Explorer, and we should be able to search for Agent 0. Let's see. Oh, is it? Did they like rename it? No, I can't find it. Okay, well, I will find it for you. It's in their docs. I just don't know what their website. Does anyone know what their website is? Yeah, okay. I don't know. It should be on here, actually. So yeah, sorry about that. But anyways, so look at Agent 0. That's another one that's really useful. All right, so let's get into Scaffold ETH. Well, before we get to Scaffold ETH, I always like to kind of show off like who here is kind of new to coding? And don't be shy. Okay. So when you're coming in, especially like if you're new to coding, and we have like vibe coding, right? And we have this concept of like whatever, you can call it prompt engineering if you want. But there's a lot of different like tools out there, and it's almost getting hard to know like what to use. You know, do I use Cursor? Do I use Cloud Code? Do I need Cloud Desktop? I use a lot of different tools. So I just want to walk you guys through like my thing real quick on like what I do. So that it can be kind of a reference point and just kind of give you some ideas. I always start like with ideation with Cloud Desktop. So I'm always coming to Cloud Desktop, and I'm coming in here and I'm enabling, you know, whatever my comfort level is for spend, I should say. I usually am using like Opus 4.6 or 4.8, but I'm putting it in thinking mode right here, thinking mode. And I usually put it at high. And what I do is I try to give as much context in Cloud Desktop to what I want to build, right? So if I'm going to say like, okay, well, I want to build this, this, and this with links, lots of deep links, and like I just give it a bunch of like brain dump that's in my brain, put it here, and tell it like, hey, I want to build this on Ethereum, or I want to build this as a smart contract, or I want to, you know, like you kind of have this idea of what you want to build. And then at the very, very bottom, I say, give me a Cursor Cloud Code prompt to build this. That's exactly what I say. And it then gives me an exact prompt of what I want to build. So like we can just have an example. Let's see here. What was one that I was trying to do earlier? I was trying to do a POC with, oh man, where was it? Trying to remember which one it was. Well, we could actually just have it. We could do one real quick. Let's see. Banker, that was Bill. Go to workshop. This is my workshop. So another thing too about over here, I have all these like pinned messages. I'll like just maintain chats about these kind of like little things that I'm working on, and then I can always come back to it and it has all the context, and I don't lose that. I'll just pin them and rename them so that I know what's going on. So like let's just say this. I was building like a red claw team feature for one claw, which is this thing I'm building. I could just ask it like make me a prompt for Cloud Code to build this. And it's going to try to use like best practices to generate a prompt for you to then take into Cloud Code. So Cloud Desktop is really, you're like talking to it, and it's like a virtual machine, and it's not on your machine at all. So at some point you need to like start working locally. And so what this is going to do is like come up with, again, help you ideate and do something. So then what I do is I come over to Cloud Code, right? And I actually like build what I want inside of Cloud Code. And the reason why I like to do that, so here you can see it's building out this entire prompt for me. And it's going to kind of give me best practices, and then I can read through it and see like, oh, well, maybe that's not exactly what I wanted, and I could tweak it a little bit. But it's kind of a way to build a plan, like with phases and like an integration plan. And it's going to do a lot of like, again, best practices, right? And then maybe you'll be able to read through it and be like, yeah, again, this is not exactly what I'm looking for. So then what I do is I come over and I actually launch Claude Code. So I use Claude Desktop to generate that prompt. Let me just make a directory here called tests and go in there. And I'll load, basically, whenever I load Claude Code, I will load it with dangerously skip permissions. Use at your own risk. But I don't really, I don't know. I'm to the point now where I have my computer isolated enough with like, I don't store any like private keys on my machine. I don't really like, I'm comfortable with doing this. If you're worried about it, use like a virtual machine, like in the cloud, right? To do some ideation, and then just give that virtual machine access to like GitHub. But this is going to just annoy you because you're always going to have to click yes, 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 or like allow. And so what this is going to do is open it in more of like a very open way, right? And then we can just come here and just grab this whole prompt, right? So this is going to build a Red Claw One Team GitHub app, and we can read through exactly what it's going to do and kind of go from there. So it's a huge prompt, right? And then we could like come over here, just paste it in, and then it's going to like let it run and build it out for you. Then you can go have lunch, and you can come back when it's done. So I always start with Claude Desktop, go to Claude Code, do my thing, and then once I'm done and I have like this kind of like starting point, I move out of Claude Code. I only really use Claude Code for like automation stuff or like bootstrapping, and then I use Cursor. And that's mainly because with Cursor, especially if you're new to like coding, you're probably going to want to like at least be able to like look at the diffs of the code as you're making changes. And I've just found that I personally like to be able to go through and look at the files and understand what's going on. So it's more of a preference thing. You could just continue operating in Claude Code if that's your style, but just know that it can be hard to keep track of like all the changes that the AI is making, right? So that's really on you. So start with Claude Desktop, basically bootstrapping Claude Code, and then load up Cursor, okay? So we'll show Cursor in a second, so why don't we do this? Why don't we start with Scaffold ETH? So who here has used Scaffold ETH before? A few people? Awesome, very cool. So for the people that haven't used it, the reason why I started using Scaffold ETH is because, again, there was a lot of different tools out there. It's similar to how we're working with AI right now. There's like all these different ways you can use AI. And like all of them have their little kind of like bonuses. But Scaffold ETH makes a lot of like decisions for you kind of. But it also is a little flexible, so it kind of gives you some wiggle room. But it basically bootstraps a project for you that already has a front end. It already has a smart contract. It already has the chain set up for you. It automatically has the front end wired to the smart contract. It already has the ABI, and I'm saying a lot of words right now, but it does a lot of orchestration for you and just makes it easier. And so let's just go ahead and do it and show you guys the power here of why it's really useful. So we can say npx create-eth at latest like this, right? And let's go ahead and do it inside this demo folder that I have. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay? Yeah? That better? Okay, so we're going to run this command. So npx create-eth. So create-eth is the package, and we're just going to grab the latest version, okay? So we're going to hit enter, and then it's going to ask you if you want to install that package. We say yes. What it's going to do is just download the package, and then it's going to start asking you very like interactively what you want to name the project, what you want to use, da-da-da-da. So we're going to call this one NYC. And it's going to ask us what framework we want to use for our Solidity. So we can use Hardhat or we can use Foundry. Really doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because with vibe coding now, it just doesn't really matter. I used to use Hardhat a lot, and then I started using Foundry. I'll use Hardhat for old school. Oh, there's already a directory. I need to delete that one. I thought I deleted these earlier, but... Sorry. I was just testing to make sure everything worked earlier. Okay, so let's try that one more time. So create that latest. We'll call it NYC, all right? And it's going to ask us what framework. Let's choose hard hat. And that's pretty much it. Really easy. Two commands you type in, and then it's going to like create an environment for us. It's going to install all the packages and kind of get you up and running. Now what we want to do is when you're using Scaffold ETH, you can kind of think of it as like you're virtualizing the chain, and then you're also virtualizing your front end, and then you need like another terminal to type stuff. So you kind of need three windows open. So I'm just going to open up those 3 windows with tmux. But you can do this just by opening new terminals, okay? So don't feel like you need to split your window. It's very easy to demo this way. So we're going to go into the demo folder, and then go into the New York City folder. And then we're going to do the same thing over here, demo folder, New York City folder, and it's still installing, but it's almost done. So let's load it up in Cursor. So I have Cursor installed, so I'm going to use Cursor. And it will just take a sec to finish up the package install, but let's just let it sit. Okay, so who here has never used Cursor? A few people? Okay, let me just give like a basic run through of Cursor, because I think it's important. Like why I use Cursor is because it has, again, it has everything over here, which is really nice for you to be able to like explore the packages. It's basically a fork of VS Code, and it has the chat window here, so you can hide that if you need to. It's got the model selection here, so if you want to be cheap and just like, well, cheap's not the word. If you want to be frugal, then use auto mode. If you want to be like YOLO, then use Fable 5. That's the most expensive model. But it's really up to you. I've been using 4.6, and it really works well. I think it's fine. I don't even really I use Fable 5 for like security audits, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to keep it at 4.6 just for the sake of like quality today. And it's still installing the packages, but we'll give it a second. But let's look at the structure. So we have that. You can choose what you want to select. But then there's also this right here. So you see where it says agent? You can adjust the type of interacting that you're doing. So agent is like you're making code changes. Plan is like you're going to do a big feature change and you want to plan it out. This would be that point where you grabbed the context from Claude Code or Claude Desktop and you wanted to paste that in. You're going to want to know exactly what it's going to do. It's going to plan it out, but it's going to do a better job than what Claude is going to do because it's going to scan the entire directory and it's going to make sure that what Claude told you is really what you should do. So it's kind of think of it like, yeah, you're going to plan a big task, then do that. If you're debugging a problem, debug is good. I never use that. Multitask, I don't use that. Ask is really cool. If you want to make sure it's not going to do anything, but you just want to ask some questions and just chat, ask is a good mode as well. But most of the time, honestly, I'm in agent mode. And so, wow, this is taking a while. I shouldn't have deleted the existing one. That's okay. Now, Scaffold ETH uses Yarn Package Manager. So what that means is it's installing like all the requirements like SDKs, stuff like that. And it's a mono repo, which means that there's 2 big packages. There's the hard hat package and the Next.js package. And so the hard hat is where all of your smart contract stuff lives. And then in the Next.js folder is where the front end lives. So if we come to hard hat and go to contracts, you'll see there's a starting kind of smart contract that is right here. And it's just a very simple contract. It's kind of like a hello world contract. And so if you're going to like make a new contract or like change the contract, this is where you would want to change it. The deploy script is right below as well. And then what's important too is we have this cursor, we have this Claude file here that tells like basically how to review the code structure. That's funny. Carlos is grumpy code reviewer. We also have the agents thing here, which also has some. So these are kind of like rules. And then there's also an MCP in here. This is really cool. This MCP server will like look up documentation for you automatically. And so we add that automatically for you. So there's a lot of like AI friendly stuff that we add in here. Also the skills. You can see here we have the X402 skill. We have the subgraph skill, sign in with Ethereum. So we have some skills that we create for you automatically. I'm surprised the ETH skills isn't in there, actually. Maybe it's just like broken up. But anyway, so anytime you want to make changes to your contract, it's in the hard hat folder. The application, the front end, is all inside of the app folder. And it's a Next.js application, so it uses the app router path, so slash whatever, so slash block explorer slash debug. And I think it finished, yeah, it finally finished. So let's go here, and let me make this full screen so you can see. So to set up Scaffold ETH, you need to do these 3 commands. You need to do yarn chain to spin up the blockchain, yarn start to spin up the front end, and then you need a third one to be able to do deploys. So what you just need to do is run those commands in each window. So yarn chain to spin up the blockchain, yarn start to spin up the front end, and then the very last window, yarn deploy. So again, it comes with a starter contract, so it's going to deploy that contract for you. It's going to use whatever version of Solidity is defined and then download it. So in this case, we upgraded the Solidity to 8.30, and it's going to download that. The internet's a little slow right now, so there it goes. And it's going to create this, there it goes, it deployed. So it deployed the contract, and Scaffold ETH is listening on port 3000. So we can just grab this URL right here, and let's go to the browser, and let's open it up real quick. It takes a second to compile the very first time, right here. But once it's ready, it should load up. There we go. Okay. So a couple other things that are really cool about Scaffold ETH is you get a burner wallet. So if we look up here in the corner, you'll see this wallet, and it's already connected. We didn't have to connect our MetaMask. It's just like, think of it as like an ephemeral like wallet. It's just for testing. You can reveal the private key if you want. You can disconnect and use your wallet if you prefer. But the burner wallet, which is right here, is better because you don't have to deal with the nonce issues with MetaMask. So just try to use the burner wallet, especially if you're running local. And if we come to debug contracts, we'll see all of our smart contract. So everything you need to know about the contract is automatically ingested. So it's still a super powerful thing. It's so silly, but it's really cool because with Ethereum contracts, if you don't know, when you compile them, you also create an ABI at the same time. And you can think of it as like a map for your contract. Your front end needs to know what data types are being used in your contract. It needs to know how to read the data from the blockchain. It needs to know how to write the data to the blockchain. And so what Scaffold ETH does is it automatically pulls that in for you and builds this UI. And it also automatically builds types for Next.js, so for TypeScript. So what that means is you can easily build front ends using those objects, right? Using that data. So that's a really, really nice thing for Scaffold ETH. So let's just try to do something. Let's just try to change the contract. We won't do anything crazy, but maybe we'll say like, let's make a smart contract that mints NFTs for a basketball game or something. I don't know. New York Knicks, yeah? All right, we'll just try to do something basic, just so you see the flow, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here and build the next Uniswap or something. Okay, so it's going to go through and like try to make these changes. It's going to, it already knows exactly how to deal with the packages because, again, all the AI files that we have, it's very, very smart about knowing how to work with it. And because Scaffold ETH uses types, it really knows how to build the UI really nicely, right? Okay, so we'll give that a second. And it's going to go through. You can see here it starts going through and like making these changes. And as it starts making these changes, you'll see over here when it's yellow, there's like a pending change. That's because we initiate a Git repo, like the minute the project's created. That's another reason I really like Cursor, is I can keep track of what's changed, right? And if you come over here and look, you can see that, well, here we deployed the contract. So everything that's orange here is a change, right? So here in a second, we can go to hard hat and go to contracts, and we'll probably see that some changes start to happen there as well. It's creating a new one. It hasn't written it. There it goes. So now it lights up blue, right? So we know now, here's what it wrote. It wrote a contract for player stats, positions. So I guess you can mint NFTs for players. I didn't give it a lot of like context. I just said make something. So it kind of guessed what would be cool, which is kind of cool actually. And it wrote a bunch of solidity for us. So that's super valuable. And if we wanted to like verify it manually, we can just click this and it will just not be green anymore. A lot of times I like to keep it green so I can like review what's going on. But yeah, so you can see here it's building out everything. So it also updated the deploy script. It created a new deploy script right here, right, to deploy it. So now we should be able to deploy it actually, but we could also ask AI to do it as well. So we'll give it a second here. While that's loading, what else can I talk about? Scaffold ETH. The docs are really good. If you decide you want to dive into the docs, it's pretty useful. I think maybe it makes sense to talk about it a little bit because there are some, so there's two other things that are really nice about Scaffold ETH. It's the hooks and it's the components. The hooks are like pre-written Next.js hooks that know exactly how to interact with Ethereum. And so they're really useful because, again, they're written in a special way to where you can send some data in, get some data out using the hook. Right? So there's a bunch of hooks, one for reading from the contract, one for writing to a contract, listening to events that come off of a smart contract, just like ingesting another contract that maybe you didn't deploy in Scaffold ETH, a lot of very flexible ways to like get the data from the blockchain. And so you can just kind of point your AI at this if you have questions, if it has problems, and it will know what to do. And then the components are also cool too, because there's these different components that are really like nice looking, like this thing, right? The address thing, where it automatically finds out if there's an ENS for the address. It does a reverse lookup. And it has the little copy paste a little button, which is stupid, but it's like super valuable to be able to copy paste that, right? Address input. It will automatically resolve an ENS name, right? And turn it into an Ethereum address for you, right? That's really cool. There's a balance checker component, which will let you check the balance of an address and then switch between what the price is in dollars versus Ethereum, right? There's this little blocky avatar guy. There's an Ether input that you can like just put in one ETH and it will let you convert it again between US dollars. And so these are all really easy components that you can just copy paste if you're old school and you really want to write some code. Or you can just point your AI and it's going to do it for you, which it looks like it's done actually. So it didn't probably deploy the contract. Oh, it did. It deployed it for me as well. So it did everything. Let's check it out. Let's see what it built. Let's go home. Basketball NFT. It didn't do anything super fancy, but you can mint a player. So LeBron. He's 23. I didn't know that. He's a point guard. What is LeBron? Anyone know? Forward. He's a forward. Power forward, yeah? Definitely not a small forward. Okay, so then we can mint it. I don't have any balance. Okay, so this is another thing. There's a faucet up here. We can grab some funds from the faucet, and it will give us some like play money. Now we can mint it. There we go. Now it was successful. So now we minted this little like NFT. So it could be like a trading card. But the world's your oyster. You can get crazy, right? But you can see the flow. It's very, very easy to use Scaffold ETH to just build some kind of prototype really quickly. Okay. Okay. So what else can I talk about? Yeah. So let's go back to the Build Guild website. See if I forgot anything. We have the Build Guild client, which is kind of cool. If you want to run a full node at your house, you can run Ethereum on your machine. Just with one button, you just click that and run the command, and you'll have a full node on your machine. Highly recommend that, especially if you're doing like data stuff locally. You don't have to like use an RPC. It's kind of a fun way to learn about Ethereum too. It's really, really easy. And especially if you're running, if you want to do indexing stuff and learn how to index data, that's really cool. What else? Yeah, follow us on X. We have a lot of stuff there as well. I guess since I have some time, I'll talk a little bit about another project that I'm working on, which I think is pretty cool. I was a spotlight project in Cannes. It's called OneClaw, and it's essentially like a secrets management platform. So if you want to be able to give your AI agent access to an API key or a private key or to have a wallet, basically what I've built is a tool for storing those secrets in a secure way. So we store the secrets on a HSM module, actually in Google Cloud, and we also do multi-party computation, where we can split the key up across multiple providers, and you can also custody a key. So we can split the key. So we can either split it between the HSM and your own custody, so in half, or we can do the multi-party computation across the clouds, and you can hold a fourth part. So it's a very flexible kind of way to have custody, but still give your agent access in a secure way. And we also have a full-on LLM proxy. So what that means is we can route all of the LLM traffic through in a TEE. So it's an actual confidential compute node running in Google Cloud that's isolated, that has access to the HSM. So if you have a secret in the HSM and you want to give the agent access to use a private key, and you want to give that agent access to an LLM, but you want to make sure it's not leaking that key, what this does is it will inspect the entire prompt, essentially, make sure there's no prompt injection, code execution, social engineering attack, all these things we're seeing online where people are getting their wallets drained or their API key stolen. And we also can make sure that those secrets don't make their way to the LLM and redact those secrets. So you can see here where we redact a secret. And we also are an LLM provider. So you can do all of your LLM through OneClaw. So you use it as your LLM and your secret store. So that way you know that, again, those secrets are staying safe. And we do a bunch of different inspections. So hidden characters, Unicode encrypted. Sometimes people are hiding malicious content inside of content on Ethereum, actually. So what we do is we can decode it first to make sure there's nothing malicious in there. A lot of interesting stuff. And then the very, very last part of it is if you want to give your AI agent access to use a private key, but you never want that agent to actually have the key itself, we have again, in the TEE, we have the ability to do an intent. So the agent can prove that it can use the key and execute a transaction in that trusted execution environment. And then you can kind of put in these guardrails you can only send, 1 ETH a day, or it can only transact on Base, or it can only send to Vitalik.eth, right? You can kind of put in these guardrails. And that way, the key never leaves hardware. It stays physically locked away, and it all happens behind the scenes. So yeah, this is kind of cool. If anyone wants to talk to me about that. We also have embedded wallets. So similar to how you would have Coinbase wallets or Privy wallets. We also offer that through OneClaw. And we also have an MCP server that lets you just hook up and manage your access to your secrets that way. And the MCP is open source, so anyone can try it out. We have an SDK. We have a CLI. So if you're using OpenClaw, or if you're using Hermes and you want to use a CLI, you can use that to programmatically use your secrets. And yeah, there's a bunch of really cool stuff. There's also a for.ai endpoint. So if you go to -for-ai, all the stuff that you need to work with OneClaw is all in one page. So you can just point that there. What else? I think that's pretty much it.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, this is an amazing thing you built, first of all.
Thank you.
We're looking for something like that. But I think that the use case might not all be only limited to AI agents, right? Because, for example, we were a maker, and still a maker on RFQ, on-chain RFQ protocols like Hashflow and Bebop. And first we tried to use MPC, right, to store the secret because you don't want to store it in production. It gets compromised. But then the latency was very high. Those guys expect you to sign under 100 ms.
Yeah.
And MPC signatures, even long does it take to sign? Is it quick?
So currently,
If you use MPC and we just use HSM and whatever HSM is, AG.
yeah, under 100 milliseconds is probably tough right now. So you would probably be more interested in using the XOR. So we do with the XOR, we basically store half the key in the HSM, and then you can custody the other part and put it wherever you want. So that way you can do 2 calls at once to get back the key and then do the signing, right? So it's a little faster. The only thing I'll say is that it's going to get faster on OneClaw because Google Cloud because we're a strategic partner with Google Cloud, and they're adding multi-party computation native. Oh, you work at Google Cloud. Oh, cool.
We start the program, we got 100K, we spent it, we got it 20% next year, and now we're getting 20K months.
Okay, let's talk. Yeah, because they are adding native multi-party computation, and we will, at the minute that's available, we will use that immediately because we actually prefer Google Cloud. Amazing.
Another question, what is thingy with AI, if I may?
Mm-hmm.
Do you tell it use Git workflow, use CD, at some point when it grows big, it's nice to see the changes, but at some point you want to put it in GitHub and tell the agents to actually use Git workflow?
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that?
Yeah. That's a great question, and that's one of the things that we're working on next is a direct Git integration for agents. So imagine an agent would have access to Git, and we would do things like offer red team kind of analysis on the code. We would have direct hooked up to the vaults versus you having to store your secrets in GitHub. So we are going to do that, not just with GitHub, but also with I forget the other Git competitor. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Let's talk later. I'm very excited. That's cool. So maybe we have more questions because I think I'm good. I've yapped for a while. You guys are I'm surprised you guys are still here, actually. No, thank you for listening. Does someone have more questions that maybe I can answer? Was that good? Yeah, there's one in the back. Do we have a microphone, by the way, or no? Because I feel like these are people aren't going to be able to hear remotely. So, yeah.
So the ERC 8000?
Yeah, ERC 8004, yeah.
How does reputation work?
How is what? Sorry. Reputation? So there's 3 different ways that you do reputation with ERC 8004. There's identity, reputation, and validation registry. I'm trying to remember exactly. It's kind of depends on the how you want to do it. But there's a way for you to do things inside of a TEE, right? Or ZKML, or some kind of automatic validation that you could do. So let's take for example World ID. Right? You're building on World ID. All of your users are on World ID. Anyways, so let's just say that you want to verify that agent was created by you as a human. You might do some kind of ZK proof and then put it in this validation registry. So that's one way. Or it could be any ZK. It doesn't matter. Or you could have this more minimal one, which is just storing a registry file that can be looked up. So kind of like an identifier, like a DID, or OneClaw, we do DIDs, right? We provided identity. So that would be something you probably would want to store in this kind of generic identity. And then I think the second one, I'm not an expert, by the way, so I'm kind of reading through it as maybe some additional. So maybe you want to get feedback as well from other users. Someone says, okay, this guy is agent is a drainer or something, and malicious. If it gets enough votes, then it would be a kind of a signal that it's not valid anymore. So that's what I understand. I'm not an expert in it yet, but that's kind of where I'm. Yeah. Good. Another question? I saw another hand. I thought. Yeah. Huh? Oh, 5 more minutes? Okay. Another question? No? I thought I saw another hand. Yeah, another question.
Regarding the secret management, is there a way to pass the secrets to an agent, or a programmatic storer, where they get access without the C?
Yes.
So agents signed up, you sign them up, you want to give them some sort of secret to be able to use in the future without ever passing it through back through the response.
So currently only with private keys, but it's something that we are working on. But you could build something to do it, because what you can do is give like you could have like a backend service running that has a unique access, right? So OneClaw has two ways to interact with it: a human key and an API key for an agent. The human key has full access to control policies, see secrets, and it's like a high-level key. So you could have a service running, right, on your own machine that's in a TE or whatever with the human key, with access to them. And then your agent could prove who it is with an identity to get that key from your backend. So you could architect it that way. We're planning on adding that native soon, but it's not there yet because there's a lot of work involved. But there's another company that does it. It's called InPhysical. So I would look at InPhysical. Not to like shout out my competitor or anything, but they do more Web 2 stuff, and they would be a good kind of alternative. So, okay, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.